DRL Bata, DZBS Baguio, DZKI Iriga, DYKB Bacolod, DYKC Cebu, DXKS Surigao, DXKD Dipolo, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXKT Davao, DXKP Pagadian, DXXX Zamboanga, DXDX General Santos.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, COVID-19 cases are on the rise and at nearly 900 in today's tally. A doctors group says hospitals are keeping watch, while research experts say holiday gatherings may not be the cause for this uptick in infections. 5 months away from the big day, the Commission on Elections simulates the 2022 polls from voting to transmission of votes, complete with health protocols. And with the clock counting down to New Year's Eve, Filipinos are rushing to buy medianoche staples. We'll check how sales are going for fruits and ham and a popular favorite, lechon. COVID-19 cases are on the rise, with the country now seeing 889 new infections. This is the highest daily tally since November 27, when new cases were at 899. Active cases are now over 10,400, excluding data from 3 laboratories. More than 200 patients recovered, 28 others died. The independent research group Octa says today's tally is lower than its projected range of 1,200, but it's still a significant increase from the previous days. Octa says this may likely increase further before the new year. It also estimates over 300 of these new cases are from Metro Manila alone. The group warns of a potential rise in COVID cases in the capital region after the daily positivity rate increased on Monday to more than 5% for the first time since October. The positivity rate refers to the percentage of all COVID-19 tests performed that turned out to be positive. Octa adds NCR's reproduction number, or the number of individuals an infected person can't pass the virus to, also increased to 1.03 as of December 25th and may still rise to 1.39 if the current trend continues. Octa said there is now concern that this is not just a holiday uptick. A doctors group is also sounding the alarm and increasing COVID cases. The group says the rise in new cases is worrisome since cases increased to over 100% in a span of 5 days.
It's quite worrisome, and we need to really be very cautious in ensuring that we don't increase this number further. We have actually seen also the slight increase in the number of cases that are being seen in the emergency rooms. There were even days wherein, like let us say we see 10 cases, and then out of the 10 cases, we see 5 of those people turning out to be positive. So that's really being felt quite in reality, in the hospitals. And this is actually causing a lot of worries for us, because we know that we need to really brace up for the possible surge if the behavior of people continue to be the same.
Health experts and officials, as well as Malacanang, are advising the public to continue adhering to minimum public health standards, including the proper wearing of masks. The palace reiterates authorities can escalate alert levels anytime if necessary in areas where there is a spike in cases. Authorities have tracked down the close contacts of the 4th known Omicron case in the country. The health department said it is now verifying the swab test results of 22 people who have come into contact with the patient aboard her flight back to Manila last December 10th. That includes her husband, who already tested positive for COVID-19. The new variant is now over 100 countries. Early studies show Omicron causes mild disease but more transmissible than the other variants. A group of hospitals is holding off its so-called, or its call for the so-called PhilHealth holiday. The Private Hospitals Association made the announcement following a meeting and hearing request from concerned patients and citizens. The group earlier planned to stop accepting claims from state health insurer PhilHealth from January 1 to 5 in a show of support to hospitals that have decided to cut ties with the agency because of its failure to pay claims. Private hospitals have long complained about the mounting unpaid claims to the agency, which they said affected their operations amid the pandemic. PhilHealth admitted delays in its payments, but said it is working to improve its processes, especially for COVID-19 claims. Typhoon Odette ravaged 14 barangays in Puerto Princesa City in Palawan. A satellite clinic that caters to many of these areas also suffered heavy damage, but its two health workers still treat as many patients as they can despite inadequate medical supplies. Tristan Nadalo now joins us live from Puerto Princesa. Tristan?
Yeah, we are now standing here in Barangay San Rafael, one of the most devastated barangays in Puerto Princesa City due to Typhoon Odette. A vital healthcare facility here is now in critical state as the satellite clinic in San Rafael now deals with lack of manpower, damaged properties, supplies and equipment, and inrush of patients. Two health workers in this satellite clinic in Barangay San Rafael, Puerto Princesa City tried to accommodate as many patients as they can amid the punishing storm, including a pregnant woman who needs to deliver her child, but roads have become impassable. The midwives then took a boat to bring her to the nearest health facility at that time. But when they returned to the clinic, they saw the extent of the damage left by Typhoon Odette.
Sobrang lakas po ng hangin noong time na yon. Kaya na bagsakan po na malaking puno yan yung bubong namin. Butas-butas na rin po yan yung clinic namin. Pinagtatsagaan na lang namin. Tumutulo po yan pag may kunting hangin, kunting ulan. Tumutulo din po yan sa loob.
Medicines and vaccines were washed out, the staff room became roofless, medical equipment and devices have also been destroyed. They could not accept patients who are in need of specialized equipment because of power outage. The generator is also malfunctioning.
Sa amin po sobrang hirap, sir. Wala talaga kaming pahinga, sir. Wala kaming tulog sa halos araw-araw. Maraming pasyente. Dinadagsa po kami ng pasyente rito. Kulang po kami ng staff.
Oxygen and medicine supplies are running out. No medical doctor has been assigned in the area since the start of the pandemic. And now with no stable clean water source, even the ambulance is being used to bring filled up containers.
Kulang na rin po sa gamot dahil yung iba nga po na was out din. Mga supplies po.
The satellite clinic in San Rafael is now requesting or in dire need of nebulizers, oxygen regulators, and pulse oximeter. They also appeal for medicines and additional medical supplies. Meantime, Puerto Princesa officials report that the estimated cost of damage in healthcare facilities and medical equipment in Puerto Princesa has now reached to 12 million pesos. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan Nadalo there reporting from Puerto Princesa in Palawan. Well, up ahead on Newsnight, COMELEC mounts mock elections for the 2022 polls, the first to be held under the shadow of the pandemic. And more Filipinos are welcoming 2022 with hope. Details when we return.
RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKD, Dipolo, Radyo Ronda.
Ringo Honasan po. Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Pandemya man, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran. Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Ringo Honasan po. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
Merry Christmas ang bati, lahat tayo ay magdiwang.
Ang Pasko Pasko may panahon sa pagmaya ug paghatag og kalipay sa atong mga mahal sa kinabuhi ug sa atong isig katao. Kini ang inyong alagad sa dakbayan sa dapitan si Bimbim Amoy ng hinaot nga unta luyo ning atong kahimtang karon nga unta anaa kita sa luwas sa atong panglawas aron sa mabulokong pagsaulog sa pagkatao ning atong manunubos nga si Jesus. Maayong Pasko ug masanagong bag-ong tuig kaninyong tanan. Daghang salamat.
Oras ay nag-aawitan sayang tunay.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
The image of Santo Niño was among the gifts presented to Queen Juana, wife of Raha Humabon, before her baptism. The cross and the image of the Blessed Mother were the other gifts given to her according to Antonio Pigafetta.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda.
Naroling at sa simoy ng selebrasyon, ang maiiwan na damang-dama ay sarap ng Pasko na buong-buo. Sarap na hatid ng Pure Foods Noche Buena. Sarap na dala ng pamilyang bumubuo sa Pasko. Buo ang Pasko sa Paskong Pure Foods.
Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Banding naman, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran. Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
For my babies, only vet-approved Nutri-Chunks puppies. The only one with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat with essential nutrients to help them grow strong and healthy. Nado sa Nutri-Chunks puppies.
Tumagal tayo sa dilim, laman tayo ng nightlife. Now it's time to live the light life. Let's have Sandvik light with the sun out. Hindi lang panggabi ang bonding natin. Any hour is now happy hour. As we drink up the light life, kumagaan ang feeling. Ang katapusan ng bawat kwento, may inuumpisa ang bago. Get into the light life.
Sandvik light.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The biggest public hospital in Region 8, the Caraga Regional Hospital, is still recovering from Odette's onslaught. Most of the staff survived the typhoon, but their homes were damaged as well. Still, they continue to perform their duties to provide health care to those in need. George Aquiles tells us more.
This video was taken inside the Caraga Regional Hospital in Surigao City, showing how intense Odette was. The typhoon left portions of the hospital damaged. Nurse Jamer Abalo recalls how they worked to keep their patients out of harm's way.
Yung mga helper natin at hospital attendants na tumulong sila para maglagay ng mga bed dito sa hallway para in case of meron talagang mas medyo malakas na ng hangin, ma-evacuate namin from a high-risk na area or hazardous place to safer place.
Almost 2 weeks since the onslaught of Odette, its traces are still evident all over the hospital. Destroyed ceilings, broken windows, damaged roofings. Some patients are even temporarily staying at the hallway while some wards remain unusable. Hospital Chief Dr. Cheryl Gutinga says their COVID-19 facilities like the operating room, laboratory, and vaccination center are now out of order. The estimated cost of damage at the biggest public hospital in Caraga region is initially pegged at 18.5 million pesos, or around 20% of their annual budget. While most staff are also victims of the typhoon, like Nurse Elmer Zapanta, they still come to work to perform their sworn duty.
Kung wala kami, din paano na yung mga patient? So kailangan talaga ng help kasi talagang increasing yung number of patient namin. So sinong magbigay ng kanilang dressing, magbigay ng mga gamot kung wala yung mga staff.
Malaki rin pasasalamat ko sa kanila na despite yung mahirap na situation, lahat naman tayo na-affected rin sa bagyo. So I'm happy na malaking percentage rin ang nag-report pa rin.
Power was recently restored in the hospital and water supply is still unstable. Despite these problems, the hospital management pledges to continue helping patients in need, even if the hospital itself needs help too. From Surigao City, George Cahiles, CNN Philippines.
Another province heavily devastated by Odette wants the national government to do better in aid distribution. Bohol Governor Arthur Yap said in an online media forum that as of today, the Social Welfare Department has only given 50,000 food packs to families in need. But the provincial government was able to hand out 90,000 packs and might exceed 100,000 by month's end. Over 200,000 families were affected in Bohol. Yap calls on national agencies to hasten transmission of funds and distribution of relief goods.
We have to do a better job. And kung pondo, may tanong ka dito, yung pondo from the national government, well, I was informed that Malacanang set aside 28 million for the province of Bohol. And we're still trying to find out now what nature are these funds so we know how to spend it.
Yap also urges the National Grid Corporation and telco providers to work double time to repair power and communication lines to speed up relief efforts. COMELEC mounts mock elections to check if everything is in order 5 months before the 2022 polls, from COVID-19 protocols to the transmission of votes. Our Melissa Lopez joins us live from Pasay City for details. Melissa?
Then 390 voted out.
Pia, we are now at the Cuneta Astrodome for the canvassing of from 2 voting centers in Pasay City as part of mock election sites nationwide. Voting opened at exactly 7 in the morning at the Padre Zamora Elementary School, where 390 out of a target of 400 participants showed up. Elderly couple Elvira and Francisco Aquilio were the first to finish voting, completing the process in just a few minutes. Another voter took longer.
Hindi mo nakakalito, ayos lang. Parang kagayang dati rin. Ang mga letra malilito. Pero kita naman namin eh.
Ito ko lang ho talagang ma-experience at maranasan kung ano talagang ano. Upang sa actual, di na ako lalong mahirapan.
The May 9 polls is the first in the middle of the pandemic. Health protocols are in place. Temperatures are taken at the gate, and if a test voter shows COVID-19 symptoms, he will be led to an isolated polling place. All must wear a face mask and face shield, but this rule may change. Inside, voters pass by this desk to know which classroom to visit. Persons with disabilities, pregnant women, and senior citizens who might have trouble walking to the precinct can vote at the Emergency Accessible Polling Place, or EAPP. COMELEC tested a 3-room setup. The first room, a holding area. Ballots are filled out in the second room, 10 people at a time, and then fed to the vote counting machine in the third room. COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez says it should take only 5 minutes to finish voting. Turnout was also better than expected. Voting went generally smooth. In Pateros, polls closed at noon for exceeding the target number of voters. However, in Negros Oriental, ballots had to be trimmed to fit the voting machine. Poll watchdog Lente also reported paper jams in voting machines in Isabela and Albay. Meanwhile, police say they are set to identify election hotspots by January. Polls closed at 5 p.m. and the local COMELEC officers have just finished the canvassing and tallying of votes remitted by the voting centers. Now they can declare who are the winners in the local race, at least for the test elections. And if interested, it was actually Selena Gomez who won the presidential race. Back to you, Pia.
Melissa Lopez there reporting on the mock elections. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, 2022 just a few days away, we'll take a look at Pinoy's outlook for the new year based on the latest social weather station survey. And we go to some of the most famous places to buy medianoche items and find out if prices have gone up. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
Ferdinand Magellan died in the hands of Dato Lapu-Lapu in the Battle of Mactan. Spanish navigator Juan Sebastian Elcano took command of the voyage, which finally reached the Spice Islands. To date, the expedition is also known as Magellan-Elcano Expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of the Pitan City, Chairman, Committee on Tourism, Committee on Labor, Committee on Child Welfare and Development. Honorable Angel Halusos Carion, Batanon, Buutan ug Malagaron, City Councilor of the Pitan City.
Ringo Honasan po. Sa pagbangon ng mga Pilipino, saludo ako sa mga taong patuloy na humaharap sa hamon ng pagbabago.
Bilang isang ina, handa akong gawin ang lahat para sa kaligtasan ng aking mga anak.
Pandemya man, tuloy pa rin ang serbisyo para malinis ang kapaligiran. Serbisyong publiko para sa kaligtasan ng lahat.
Sa panahon ng krisis, ikaw, ako, magtulungan tayo. Ringo Honasan po. Saludo ako sa Pilipino.
DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga balitang may kamatuuran, way gidapigan o hilisgutanan sa katawhan. DXKD Ronda Balita. Mga labas nga mga balita gikan sa sinaligang mga tinugdagan. Balitang hinimo sa lawak balitaanan. Diin inyong madungog ang mga balitang lokal, regional, national o international o uban pang may kalabutan sa atong kadaliligban. Gihatod ninyo live gikan sa RPN DXKD Radio Ronda Broadcast Center. DXKD Ronda Balita. Inyong madungog matag adlang Lunes hangtod Biyernes alas 12 hangtod sa alas 2 sa kahaponon ug makita usab sa RPN DXKD Dipolog Facebook page, YouTube ug sa Twitter. DXKD Ronda Balita.
DXKD Dipolog Radio Ronda.
Kailangan lang natin to bigyan ng pagkakataon, mailabas at kahit mahirap ang bansa, kaya pa rin natin magkalinga sa iba.
Para sa akin, si Gawad Kalinga ay hindi lang po siya bahay. Inspirasyon po siya sa akin, bagong bahay, bagong buhay, bagong bayan. Ito pala yung buhay na hinahanap ko na noon pa. Sarap po talaga kami sa buhay dati. Nangangalaka lang po kasi kami dati. Nung nasa tanay po ako na na-aksidente po ako, nag-aasikaso po ako sa asawa ko. Salamat po sa mga tumulong sa amin. Lalo na po nalipat kami dito. Mga kapitbahay po namin, hindi po kami kinalimutan na tulungan.
Ang Gawad Kalinga ay simbolo ng pangarap ng mga Pilipino na tapusin yung kahirapan sa bansa. Poverty is loss of dignity. In restoring their dignity, that brings out their capacity to dream and that enables them to become productive. Importante na maintindihan natin na sa bansa, kailangan yung pagkakalinga at yung maipadama sa ating mga kababayan na hindi sila napag-iiwan. Kaya yung barangay walang iwanan ang hangarin ay paano natin malulocalize yung solutions. We hope to create these on-ground platforms and connect them to online solidarity. Kaya habang nilalabanan natin yung challenges ng pandemic, huwag nating kalilimutan na tulungan din yung ibang mahihirap na may tawid din yung kanilang buhay. Tayo sa Gawad Kalinga, we believe na walang iwanan. We should never say die. Sa pong karangalan, natanggapin ng Gawad Kalinga ang Ginebra Ako Awards Year 4. Ito po ay isa ring pasasalamat sa thousands of volunteers ng Gawad Kalinga dahil po sa inyo napatunayan natin na totoong walang iwanan sa bansang ito.
Binabati ko ang lahat ng bumubuo sa Gawad Kalinga, lalong-lalo na sa mga taong nasa likod ng programang Barangay Walang Iwanan. Ito ay isang patunay ng mga Pilipino kailanman ay never say die. Congratulations po!
Bagong tapang at patuloy na kasaganaan ang aming hangad para sa lahat ng bumubuo ng Gawad Kalinga. Mabuhay kayo! Ako po si Pauline Verzosa at ito ang ika-4 na taon ng Ginebra Ako Award. Tumitindi ang bagong tapang ng One Ginebra Nation.
Welcome back. New stamps from the Philippine Postal Corporation come out tomorrow, meant to feature our national heroes' compassion for the Filipino people. The release is in commemoration of Jose Rizal's 125th death anniversary. The block of 4 postage stamps were designed under the theme Rizal para sa agham, katotohanan at buhay will be sold at 12 pesos each. More Filipinos welcoming the new year with hope. That's according to the latest Social Weather Station survey. It found that 93% of adult Filipinos are hopeful about 2022. That is slightly up from 91% last year. But this year's figure is still lower than the 96% recorded in 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic struck the country. Malacanang welcomes the results of the latest SWS survey.
That's a huge majority, no, of our kababayans looking forward to a better 2022. Pero nasa kamay po natin lahat yan. Sa pagtutulungan po natin, we can overcome yung challenges natin dito sa COVID.
The survey covered 1,440 participants nationwide from December 12 to 16. It is just 2 days until New Year's Eve, and the rush to buy medianoche staples like fruits and ham has begun, but sales have yet to pick up in one popular destination for lechon. CNR Kanghel has that story.
Bowls of freshly cooked lechon are for the taking outside shops in Loloma, Quezon City as early as 10 a.m. But customers are hard to come by. Vendors flag vehicles and passers-by, urging them to buy roasted pig. With just 2 days before New Year's Eve, lechon vendors say sales have yet to pick up. Some vendors blame low sales on the high cost of pigs, which translates to high prices. A 5-kilogram lechon, which used to be sold for around 6,000 pesos, now sells for between 8,500 pesos and 9,500 pesos.
Supplier na lang kumita eh. Ang lechonero walang kinikita. Dahil sa sobrang taas ng bigay nila sa amin. Swerte na yung maka 1,000 kaming kita sa isang baboy. Minsan 500, minsan tabla pa.
It's a different story in Divisoria, the popular bargain marketplace in Manila, where round fruits are in demand. Prices also increased ahead of the new year, but customers still buy fruits for prosperity in the coming year. There's also a long line of customers at a famous ham store in Quiapo, Manila. 60-year-old Rosario Francisco traveled from Bukawi, Bulacan to buy 2 kilograms of Chinese ham for New Year's Eve. A kilogram of sliced ham costs 1,540 pesos, while a kilogram of deboned whole whole ham sells for 1,460 pesos. A kilogram of bone-in ham sells for 1,600 pesos. Francisco says it has been a tradition to buy the choice ham, so she saves up for it even if there are cheaper alternatives.
High school, working student na ako eh. So pinag-iipunan ko siya every New Year. Laging meron yan.
Whatever items are on the table for Medianoche, shoppers say nothing will replace welcoming the new year with loved ones by their side. Cian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
And that's it for tonight. Join me again on news.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Loren Legarda po. 18 years akong senador at nagsulong ng mga batas na nakakatulong sa mga nangangailangan. Free college education law. Para sa aming edukasyon. MSME law. Batas para sa aming kabuhayan. Climate Change Act. Mga batas para sa kalikasan at climate change. Mga batas na ginawa ko na napapakinabangan ngayon. Sana makatulong pa ako sa mas marami. Loren Legarda.
This is a paid advertisement. Quincentenary Faith Rewind.
The image of Santo Niño may have come from Michelin Flanders, now part of Belgium. There are surviving images that resemble the one in Cebu from 16th century Flanders. King Charles I of Spain grew in Flanders and must have obtained and given images of the Santo Niño for the expedition.
KBP marks 500 years of Christianity and this station.
Dapitan City Councilor Jezebel Bing Balisado, konsehal sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan nga dali duulon og maabibihon sa iyang mga katawhan. Konsehal Bing Balisado maluluyon og matinabangon sa tanang higayon. Konsehal Bing Balisado sa Dakbayan sa Dapitan.
Mas pinalawak, mas pinalakas. RPN sa iba't ibang mga lalawigan. DZRL Bataan, DZBS Baguio, DZKI Iriga, DYKB Bacolod, DYKC Cebu, DXKS Surigao, DXKD Dipolo, DXKO Cagayan de Oro, DXKT Davao, DXKP Pagadian, DXXX Zamboanga, DXDX General Santos. RPN Radio Philippines Network, DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
For many of us, we never really think much about our gallbladder, like we do our heart or the liver. But the gallbladder has a very important role in our digestive system. It's a relatively small organ located just under the liver. And there's a reason why these two organs sit next to each other. Think of them as the liver as some sort of a factory, while your gallbladder is like a warehouse. Now, the liver produces bile while the gallbladder stores and releases that bile to help break down mainly fats when you eat. You need bile to break down fats, which are actually one of the hardest parts of the food to digest. And when you break down the fats, you transform it into energy that the body can use. Today on the program, we'll talk about how to keep your gallbladder in good health to avoid the likelihood of problems such as inflammation and gallstones. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. The gallbladder is a key component of our digestive system, and our guests are here today to tell us more about how it works, what it's for, and why we need to ensure that our gallbladder is healthy. With us is Dr. Catherine Te. She's the Chief of Hepatobiliary Pancreatic Center in Makati Medical Center and the President of the Philippine Hepatobiliary Surgeons. Also with us is Dr. Ira Inductivo Yu. She is a gastroenterologist from National Kidney and Transplant Institute and Diliman Doctors Hospital and the president of the Philippine Society of Gastroenterology. Now, when someone eats fatty food, your gallbladder receives a signal to react. I'll start first with Dr. Kathy. How does it all work? Please explain to our viewers yung basic functions ng ating gallbladder o ang ating abdo.
Well, technically, the gallbladder is a storage. It's a reservoir. You know, it stores the bile because the bile is secreted in the liver, and then it is 80% of it is stored in the gallbladder. Once we eat, there is some signal that is sent to the gallbladder to stimulate it, and then it will send the bile or push the bile down into the biliary tract to bring the bile down to the intestines for digestion, to help in the digestive process. So technically, it's just a reservoir.
But bile has other functions as well. Dr. Ira, let's talk about that next. Some of the other functions ng bile natin.
The bile also facilitates digestion of other nutrients, and particularly when it comes to vitamins, it facilitates the digestion and absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, and K.
Now, we keep hearing time and time again to eat healthy, and here are more reasons why. Because certain foods can actually protect and promote a healthy gallbladder. Dr. Kathy, pag-usapan naman natin, what are these gallbladder-friendly foods naman?
We know that we need to have a good diet, a balanced diet. And basically, everything that is less fatty will be healthy for the gallbladder. Because when there is an imbalance in the amount of fat, for example, cholesterol, and then the bile salts, when there is a difference in the concentration, that's when gallstones develop. And therefore, foods that are less fatty are the ones that are healthy to the gallbladder. Okay. So that's in a general sense, no? Right. But there are some certain kinds of food, for example, fish, sardines, leafy vegetables, and these are very good food for the gallbladder.
Now, when you look at the list that was shown to you, you can see a variety of protein and vitamin-rich food. And these are a mix of food items that can also make you enjoy your meals at the same time. Now, fruits and vegetables are especially full of nutrients as well as fiber. So incorporate these into your diet, not just to keep the gallbladder healthy, but they're good for the overall health of your body. Now, Dr. Ira, pag-usapan naman natin yung mga food items na pwedeng mag-increase ng likelihood ng mga problema sa gallbladder. So what are some of the foods that our viewers should avoid naman?
Anything that is very high in fat, anything that is very high in oil, the processed foods, we should try to avoid them. Avoiding this type of food will decrease the likelihood for patients to have gallbladder stones or gallbladder sludge. And if it so happens that you already have the stones there, if you try to avoid, again, oily processed foods, there is now a decreased likelihood for you to have inflammation of your gallbladder. So stay away from them. Stay away from eating too much lechon and sisig, and try your vegetables and fruits. So even if there's a fiesta and the Christmas break is coming, try to control the urge to divulge too much, to indulge yourself too much on fatty foods.
Ultimately, we want to avoid gallbladder problems such as gallstones or the inflammation of the gallbladder, and our food choices can make or break that situation. So how do we treat these various conditions? We'll find out when we return. So stay with us on MedTalk Health Talk, only here on CNN Philippines.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, DXKD, Dipolo, Radyo Ronda.
Katungod sa publiko nga masayod sa tinuod na paghitabo sa palibot, may kalabot na ang pagparagan sa mga buhatang lokal ug nasyonal. Masayod sa gihimo sa mga gitahasan nga magdumala sa rinda sa atong mga gamanan.
Tungod nini nataw kining tulumanon.
Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod. Gidalit kaninyo ni Sibiana RPN DXKD Polo. Sayri ang lungsod.
Dinhi inyo madungog ang paghimay sa mga nag-unang isyu o gisgutan may kalabot na sa katilingban. Sayri ang lungsod.
Mga problema, reklamo sa komunidad nga gustong ipabot sa mga hintungdang opisina o namunuan. Sayri ang lungsod.
Inyong madungog dinhi lamang sa inyong gisaligang RPN BXKD Radio Ronda Dipolog 1053 sa dial sa inyong mga radio. Sayri ang lungsod.
Makita usab sa inyong official Facebook page sa RPN DXKD Dipolog, YouTube o Twitter. Please subscribe, like, share, and follow. Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod. At ang paminawa ug sundak kanunay matag adlawng Domingo alas 9 ngadto sa alas 11 ang takna sa kabuntagon ang inyo ug atong tulmanon. Sayri ang lungsod. Sayri ang lungsod.
DXKD Dipolo Radio Ronda.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. Your gallbladder works to store and release your bile, a fluid that helps the body break down and digest the food that you eat, in particular fat. Fat takes longer to digest than other foods, but you need it. It supports several of your body's functions and gives your body that energy that it needs. It's in our best interest to keep our gallbladder healthy throughout the food we eat. Dr. Kathy, explain natin sa mga viewers kung ano ba talaga ang mga gallstones. How does it form?
That's really the most common problem that we encounter, the gallstones, no? Basically, the bile has to maintain a certain balance in the concentration of the fats and the bile salts and water. So if there is a critical elevation of one component, for example, cholesterol, mataas ang level ng cholesterol, then the formation of cholesterol stones can happen in the gallbladder.
Now, another thing that may disrupt this balance that Dr. Kathy mentioned is that of skipping meals. Dr. Ira, is the practice of skipping meals, can this increase the likelihood of one person developing gallstones?
Yes, you're right. Apparently, it is. In fact, if you look at the literature, people engaging themselves on crash diets are at higher risk for developing gallstones. So even if this strategy is very effective for weight loss reduction, it has another side to it. And that's what we do not want. If you indulge yourself in too fast weight reduction, in too prolonged intermittent fasting, in the long run, you might end up with gallbladder sludge.
Gallstones themselves are not necessarily the problem, and if they're not bothering you, most of the time, they don't need to be surgically removed, but they may not go away on their own. That's why I'd like to ask Dr. Ira, for those who may be concerned that they already have bile stones, is it proper for our viewers to probably, even though they don't feel any symptoms, to have a check with their doctor if they do have beginning gallstones? Is this something that they should be worried about?
Yeah, definitely yes. Okay, anything that is not supposed to be in the body should be treated and should be seen by a doctor, and that would include your gallbladder stone. In fact, these stones, even if they are there, patients should be advised properly on how to prevent inflammation of the gallbladder and what to do if ever inflammation occurs. Now, there are certain patients that should be looked into more closely because these are patients that might develop more severe complications of gallbladder. And this basically would include the diabetic patients and the elderly patients, and even patients who are on chemotherapy or immunosuppressants because they have higher tendency for infection to set in. So these are the patients that we should be looking more intently.
Now, Dr. Ira, you mentioned quite a few other comorbid conditions, ibang mga sakit like diabetes for one. Another question is, namamana ba itong mga gallbladder stones?
There are some risk factors that have been identified that would increase the risk for gallbladder inflammation when a stone is present. And this would include, first and foremost, the age. Apparently, the older you get, the higher your tendency to have cholecystitis or gallbladder wall inflammation. And they usually ascribe it to an increase in biliary cholesterol secretion in the bile, and the fact that as you age also, unfortunately, the gallbladder emptying time is also lessened. So if you try to connect these two factors together, then there you go, you have a higher tendency for cholecystitis. Now, some also would say that if you had a prior history of a stroke or a cardio or a cerebrovascular disease, you have a higher tendency for cholecystitis. But the connection and the reasoning behind it, although not fully elucidated, is there. So I think these are the people that you should again intently monitor for signs and symptoms of gallbladder complications.
Could you share with our viewers what are some of the usual warning signs that someone may have a gallbladder that needs immediate medical or surgical treatment for that matter?
Unfortunately, most of our patients with gallbladder, they don't feel anything bad. In fact, a lot of them, they will just have it incidentally diagnosed during a general checkup. However, for those who develop symptoms, the usual complaint is bloatedness, or they have this heavy feeling in the tiyan nila, mabigat, makabag. Now, for some patients, they may have pain, colicky pain on and off for several months that they will just dismiss as just having peptic ulcer disease or gastritis. Now, for the more complicated scenarios, these patients could have persistent abdominal pain. They can have even jaundice. They can have inflammation of the pancreas. They can even have sepsis because of cholangitis. Okay. Now, where is the pain usually located? So naturally, if the gallbladder becomes inflamed, the pain is localized in the right upper quadrant or in the middle of the abdomen. These are the usual reasons why they go to the clinic.
Okay, now Dr. Ira, as a follow-up to that, if someone feels those symptoms already, does medical treatment have a role here, or is it most often than not a surgical case by this time?
If the patient comes to you already with cholecystitis, the recommendation is admit, give antibiotics, and do the cholecystectomy, ideally within the same hospital admission.
Okay. The best thing here is don't wait too long. So go see a doctor when you experience any of these problems. Don't set it aside or don't think it may go away on its own. So if surgery is the only option to treat this condition, what does life look like without a gallbladder? We'll discuss this after a short break. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Philippines Network, DXTD, Dipolo, Radyo Ronda.
Kalandraka. Tulumanon nga kurbahinam sa mga suking tigpaminaw, mga tigmo nga nagtangag sa premiong makalingaw. Kalandrakas, musabwag-usab sa mga impormasyon nga may kalambigitan sa kalambuan o kayuhan sa katawhan. Kalandrakas, mualagad kaninyo. Kalandrakas.
Mga higalan namong suking tigpaminaw, maayong adlaw kaninyong tanan. Ang DXTD EM Station RPN Management Dipolog City magpahigayon og libreng panag-inambitay sa pulong sa Ginoo. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Among giawag tanang magawali sa naglain-laing relihiyon sa pagtambong ning maong programa. Dialogo sa kamaturan. Aron mapabati is tanang katawhan ang inyong matag baruganan sumala sa kamaturan alang sa hingpit nga kaluwasan o kinabuhing walay katapusan. Dialogo sa kamaturan.
Ang dialogo sa kamaturan ninyong mabati matag alas 3 ngadto sa alas 5 sa hapon adlong Domingo.
DXTD Dipolo Radyo Ronda.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Your gallbladder can be removed if necessary. Now, people without it can live a normal and healthy life. But this means your body isn't able to store bile in your gallbladder anymore because it has been removed. And as a result, some dietary changes are recommended at first to help your body adapt. Dr. Ira, what if someone has their gallbladder removed but still continues to eat a high-fat diet? Are there any further complications that may happen? Just to remind our viewers that eating healthy is definitely a plus.
Of course, it's not only the gallbladder that is affected by a high-fat diet. Remember, the liver, can have fatty deposition. In fact, we should eat healthy. We have to really lessen the fat for good health. Fatty liver is now a worldwide. It's a silent pandemic. And our notion before is it's just fatty liver. It will not kill me. But the problem is it's a progressive disease. And for all we know, we might end up with a lot of liver fibrosis or liver cirrhosis. So even if you do not have the gallbladder, even if you're not concerned with gallbladder stone because there's no gallbladder to begin with, you have to take care of your liver. You have to take care of your heart. And there is also such a thing as common bile duct stone. So I think you should eat healthy. Try to lessen the fatty foods.
As a reminder to our viewers to always eat healthy because it will not only manage the presence of problems with your gallbladder but with your liver, your heart, and your whole body in general. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Kathy, when it comes to problems with the gallbladder, ang problema lang ba ay stones or can infection and inflammation also be a cause for concern when it comes to our gallbladder? And when it comes to the stones, sa gallbladder lang ba sila nakikita?
That's very important for our viewers to know because the stones can cause the infection. Now, sometimes there's also what we call as a calculus called cystitis, where there's no stone but there's infection in the gallbladder. So these needs to be treated as well. And the stones, sometimes they're not only in the gallbladder. So if this migrates, the patient can turn jaundice. They will become yellow and they can develop fever. Ito yung tinatawag na cholangitis. So we don't want patients to develop cholangitis, which is infection within the biliary system.
Now, before we go, I'd like to ask Dr. Ira, are there any tips that you could share with our viewers when it comes to not just gallbladder health, but liver health as well?
Unfortunately, fatty liver is becoming one of the more common reasons now for liver cirrhosis. So we need to stop as early as possible, need to stop this bad habit of eating lots of fatty foods. Second, we need to regulate and avoid too much alcohol consumption. So if you can control your urge to drink alcohol, you have to control it right now. And then, of course, vaccinate. So we need to maximize the opportunity that we have to vaccinate ourselves and our family. We all need it. And then, of course, have your regular checkup. As physicians, we would like to see you in our clinic just for a good annual checkup. We don't like to see you with a very sick liver already. So please consult early.
Dr. Kathy, is there anything you'd like to add? Any advice for the viewers before we go?
Sometimes we do not take too much into account the diet of our children. And parang, oh, bata pa yun eh, pwede to. But in reality, the healthy lifestyle should start while they're young so that they develop into a good habit.
Maraming salamat, hepatobiliary surgeon Dr. Catherine Tay and gastroenterologist Dr. Ira Inductivo Yu for being with us today. We appreciate your time and insights very much. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. We'll see you again next time. Stay safe.